That's my fault.
No, it's fine. We'll kick things off, everyone, and let's give everyone a minute here to join. Welcome to Player Driven Live, action-packed episode. We'll give everyone 2 or 3 minutes. But Colin, before we get deep into your passion of it, let us know what you're doing in Pokopia these days. What's breeding life like to Pokemon when civilization is lost?
I am in the second city area. I am trying to wake up my Snorlax, who's in a cave with a flower on his head, and I am trying to. I'm currently building the Poke Center in that area, so my Pokemon are hard to work while I'm working on my day job. So it's a game I don't play that much, considering the internet. I've seen all the videos, and it's impressive what the internet's done with that game. But I play a little bit, so it's going well. It's going well.
All right, Lewis, you play anything new? You playing any games?
Not new. So Clash of Clans, right? That's just my endless addiction dating back like 10 years. So,
Oh
I
my
still do
God.
the Clan Wars. I do all that stuff. But I did see a session on Clash Royale and how they, at GDC, how they did they kind of like Clash of Clans, they kind of redid the live ops piece to help drive up users again because revenue had been going down. They've been doing like content drops and it got very expensive. And they were like, is this game ruined? And then the story was how they switched to card upgrades. You can do like a transformation of cards. And so their mix to the live ops was for endgame people who are kind of at the end, like I am in Clash of Clans, they kind of refreshed it by allowing you to upgrade these cards that kind of refresh the whole battle thing. And then they built back money and revenue. That was the story they were telling at GDC. So I did something tangential at GDC, but no, I've been digging out a little bit and then, keeping up with my Clash of Clans wars, basically.
Wow, I was one of those lapsed Clash of Clans players. That's interesting. I know that's how they changed the meta. I had just heard through the community that they changed the meta. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, there's two things, right? So Clash of Clans refresh. There was another session from GDC many years ago that went through the addition of the season pass thing. So they introduced that, and that worked for Clash of Clans. I was referring to Clash Royale, the card battle.
Oh, that's what I mean. That's what I play. Yeah, I play Clash Royale,
Yeah.
tower defense card game. Yeah.
Same company, and obviously, same characters basically, but it's a card battler, and they refreshed it more like 2024. They changed up the meta layer so that the end game people actually spend more. Because they were like, if you go too far pay to play with powerful cards, your community yells at you because it's a free to play game. And if you're not aggressive enough in it, you also don't make money because those players don't spend anything. So they kind of threaded this needle by doing transformations of cards. And that was their story that's refreshed. The game style refreshed it and their revenue and you mower up basically.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's a good case study. I have to look that up afterwards. That's awesome. I love that.
Nerding out over Supercell. I've learned that there's a deep addiction to people with Clash Royale that I have not dipped my toe in, and I've learned to stay away from because it is scary about the addiction it seems like everyone has for that game.
Yeah, I should move on. I've sucked every juice out of the marrow of the bones of Clash of Clans, and I still can't quit. I don't know what's wrong with me.
There you go. Well, welcome to Player Driven Live. It is Thursday, March 19th, and we are here live. Colan and Lewis are joining me today. They are back from GDC. We are going to break down what happened at GDC, what the good bits were, what the could be better bits will be next year, and just some great insights. And we're going to talk about games. There's so many games. Colin and I have been excited about Crimson Desert. Where is it going to go? There's a new Xbox. Pokopia, if you haven't heard us talking about that yet, is getting all the rage. And there's so many other things going on in gaming right now. Lewis, thank you for joining us this week, man. How was GDC? Welcome back.
It was sunny. So obviously I'm coming from Massachusetts and it was, pretty miserable out here and it still is really cold out here, but the snow was luckily melted. So it was great to get out in the nice weather, see a lot of some family, some friends, some old colleagues, attend some sessions where I could, have some biz dev type meetings. And so, I love going to that show and it's always inspirational because it does focus on developers and what their interests are. And there's this whole, obviously, creative side of the market, which at the end of the day is what gamers actually enjoy and what they will stick around for the community to enjoy. And a lot of, what we do, or at least I speak for myself, maybe not Colin, is focused on the business side of it and the health of the studios and driving revenue. But for me, going back to GDC always centers me on the player experience and what gamers are actually getting out of the content that these people produce. And that's always refreshing and kind of exciting. And and this year was no exception to that.
Cool. Well, good to hear. I'm going to dig more into it. Colin, let us know about your GDC. We heard about you going in, your calendar, booking up. How did it all play out?
It was wildly busy. Unlike Lewis, I didn't step foot in the show floor. Although he mentioned that I could have, and I had learned that on the last day I was there. And I was like, next year, I will represent player driven there. But yeah, other than that, it was good. It was. I know a lot of people said it was emptier, and I guess that's kind of true. But ultimately, I didn't. I still had more the same, or if not more, valuable conversations with people at the similar spots. Like Blue Bottle on Market was still a S show. The Marriott Marquis was a bunch of people staring at their phones, looking for the face they're trying to meet up with. All the similar places I'm used to kind of walking around and meeting people were at, busy, and didn't notice any major kind of shift or change. I did hear that there were a lot of students, but they were primarily inside the hall, kind of trying to find and navigate and network their way into like a job or a connection in the industry and that sort of thing. Right. So I heard that was a change, but it was great. I mean, overall, I thought it was great. The city definitely, I saw a lot of commentary cleaned up, and I'm like, they typically do for things like that. So I thought, yeah, it was great. Overall, I had a really positive experience, and definitely had a lot of conversations about trends and what do I think about things coming out of it.
Cool. And when you go on the internet, you see a lot of the same rhetoric, which is basically it was smaller this year compared to last, which I think was kind of the consensus going in. But the conversations were just as impactful, if not more impactful than previous years, which kind of gave me, Colin, I could talk about kind of those dice vibes where every conversation is a more important conversation. And I'm curious, I'm wondering, is that because a lot of the students who ended up going actually went to the show, where more of the kind of the executives that went year after year decided not to go to the show and spend their time in the marquee or somewhere else. So it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I would love Lewis's perspective on there. Like to me, this is like the conundrum that GDC's in, and I don't know how it doesn't just continue the flywheel in the same direction where you need the event in the city to act as a magnet for people to show up, but there's no need to go inside the venue itself to have business done, right? So people like a kind of an event to drive that, but like I'm really challenged to see what the value of the ticket price gives to me, other than that I'm supporting the event's existence to continue to be in the city. And I don't know. And I heard the show floor was pretty empty, and it's like, well, yeah, I don't understand the value of a booth if they're not going to have the people who buy things go on the show floor. So I think this is just going to be like a negative flywheel that they're going to have to challenge or figure out how to solve. But just gives me very E3 vibes. Like we were saying the same thing about E3 until it ceased to exist because of COVID, and they never were able to bring it back. But it's a similar kind of like negative flywheel that it's happening with GDC. And I like the event existing, so I don't want to see it go that way. But yeah, that'd be
I
my 2
mean,
cents on that.
yeah. I share some of Colin's concerns. I guess I would counter that E3 was originally an industry B2B event, right? That then opened up to the public after a significant amount of time. The ESA wanted to build, public goodwill and, lobbying Washington, D.C. and those other things to kind of make a case that the gaming industry is important to the country, et cetera. I think that I am old enough to have lived through the decline of E3, and I think it was caught in I could see where Colin's right in that it's caught. GDC seems to be caught between, are we going to expand this, branch out, try to bring in more people into the tent in order to monetize it, which E3 kind of floundered on, bringing in like a player pavilion that was outside the show floor and all these other things that try to, generate public interest in it. But at root, it was about businesses getting together to choose their lineups, get together with, distributors. This is back when, physical games were a huge part of the industry. They would do business there to sign deals to get certain discs and cards and so forth on the shelves by Christmas. And that was like a core rationale for why people bought why big studios and other companies bought floor space. So, GDC, I think, is trying to pivot a little bit. And I could see that case being made that maybe they're floundering a little bit to try to figure out what to do. However, it's not the same audience. And then at the end of the day, it's about game design, which is, in my view, isn't going anywhere. The fundamental rationale still exists because games, whether it's indies or medium tier or large tier AAA, whatever you want to call it, are still going to be made, and there's still going to be a lot of tool vendors that want to sell to those developers. And so I don't think it's quite at risk in the same way that E3 turned out to be at risk. So maybe I'm a little bit more positive about the future of it. I do think that in this specific year, it was like 20,000 this year versus 30,000 before. So like a 30% reduction in total people that showed up. But I do think that the cost of attending is pretty high for a lot of people. There were some free people. We could talk about Amir, Sadfat, and so forth, bringing in a lot of free students or whatever. But also, I think the geopolitical climate with the Trump administration being, very aggressive in terms of who's admitted in and so forth. I think there are some people that didn't come literally because of visa type worries. Others didn't come out of protests against it. So I think on the global front, fewer people felt interested in flying in to support this event than they have in the past. And all I'm saying is that I will leave the door open as to whether the situation has changed next year and things have eased back off, and maybe we would see a rebound because of that, the specific circumstances related to this year.
I agree with that. Like in the development, obviously this is for people who make games and design games. My only note, and I would love your thoughts on it, is like, do you see like if there's a scale and then there's APAC and there's North America, do you find that a GDC APAC just grows over time as more development goes over there, and the North America shrinks as more development leaves North America, right, to go to other parts of the world?
No, I think you are right on that. I think I had 3 points. One was that attendance is down, but that I found the meetings great and everybody was upbeat and kind of stabilized relative to last year. Whatever, it's less sky falling, more like, okay, we've come through this hard time. We think the growth will return, and we could talk about some numbers that might suggest that's actually happening. The second one is AI, which we haven't really touched on. The third one relates back to a talk that Greg and I had with Sean Layton early on, like maybe a year last GDC, saying that he was concerned about there's a hollowing out of the mid-tier developers, publishers, that the small indies does well. Claire Obscure, which I haven't played, but I know it's a single player game. It won game of the year award at GDC, and you could point to several other indies that have really outperformed expectations. We could talk about some mid-tiers, that projects that haven't done as well, and some of the huge massive games, Fortnite and Roblox. We could talk Minecraft. We could talk some of the monsters that have been out there forever, CS2, that aren't going anywhere, right? But in between those two, we could talk about challenges to bring those games to market and have them be financially successful. And against that backdrop, if you look at it that way, I think you can, to your point, Colin, make a case that North America and Western European studios and publishers have been more challenged by that. EA is obviously a big company, but that part of that sale last year wasn't a GDC necessarily. Would be an example of that. Several other studios in those regions cutting back or shutting down entirely. Ubisoft selling itself. So I think that you're right in that if we look at the macro scope over the past year, we could say that Asia Pacific oriented developers and publishers are ascendant in a relative sense. I've never been to GDC AP. I'm not even sure where it is, but I guess you're right.
Singapore. I think they had one in Singapore, but I think it's going to go to, please, someone in the chat comments or watches after tell me. I think it's going to like Thailand, but yeah. And I know a lot of people who are doing development, indie work at indie studios in Singapore, and like, yeah, gaming industry is booming over here, and like it's like, oh, because labor is kind of shifting over that way. I think GDC is always going to have the advantage of, even if you're out of those markets, you still need Western publishers to help you navigate the North America and Western Europe, and they're going to primarily be at GDC. So I think there's a floor to it falling out in terms of GDC, where you're still going to need to have the meeting to sell your wares to those people to understand how to like break into the NA market. I mean, and even Tencent's there in very big presence, right? So I think that'll always be there. It's just curious, it's like the developing side, the people who actually make the games, whether it be the publishers themselves continually to downsize and outsource that to other markets as the world kind of flattens, basically, or just people at smaller places, typically around the world, like where the center of power that'll be. But anyways, I don't have an answer, just a curiosity, because that's I kind of see like that was one of the trends that I think. It's like I think AI to me is both real and a boogeyman. I've been saying this to people all the time. It's like AI is the easiest scapegoat, said or unsaid, to why people are downsized. Like, oh, we're gonna lay off 20% of our workforce. Must because AI. Even though maybe they lay off 10% of that workforce because of AI, but the other 10% is because they're offshoring those jobs to other markets. But they don't have to say that because AI is easy boogeyman, and because the companies who are leveraging AI or whatever, or who are doing the cuts, don't actually own the AI products. All the anger goes to the hyperscalers for kind of imploding the white collar work economy, and I think it's an interesting spot. So I think like AI is real. I don't want to say it's not. I'm not a doomerist. I'm also not a fully bought in on it. I'm more like it's really useful in my day to day. I'm writing my newsletter this week, and I had this conversation with people who I would say I hate AI, and I'm like, okay, do you use AI in any factor in your life? Like, well, yeah, I use it at home for cooking recipes because it's better than Google search. It's like, aha, because in Google you put in the thing, then you have to click on the website. I'm like, please have the thing I'm looking for. I don't know. Google just said you might, and then it's like there or not there, or maybe you're getting hammered with ads. But AI just gives you the answer. Like, I need to make a beef stew. Here's a beef stew. I need to know the rules of baseball. Here's the rules of baseball. It's like very responsive to that fact. So people who I know in my life who are anti-AI still use AI for these like very basic things. And I'm like, okay, so there's a utility for it. It's just a better Google search query basically that then holds data out of Google into your direct relationship with the chatbot you're using. And so yeah, so then again go to like what's actually maybe happening. I think it's a flattening the world. I think as IP or as broadband gets better globally, in part because of Starlink growing globally, you can get great internet in the middle of the forest. Like, okay, that's going to make it so then labor anywhere could work on almost anything if we're all just typing on computer with digital bits. And then AI, if there's a translation barrier, AI comes in and just basically operates as the translator at scale. And now you can talk to someone in another language and doesn't matter because it's just real time translating into both your languages with each other.
But you
And
run into, so I want
go
to
ahead.
go back. I
So
want
thank
to
you, Greg.
connect some dots here, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
please.
saying with Starlink, you can go live anywhere, you can do whatever, you could all stay connected, right? But when that happens, you lose people from your community center. When you lose people from your community center, you have things like GDC where attendance starts to go down because people live everywhere, and you have these ages, and you have this continuous cycle of people leaving these giant city centers because they can go work everywhere. Then these conferences dying because there's no one living at these city centers, and they want people to come back, and it's this just cycle that goes on, right? And you got to kind of pick where you love and what you love about the cycle, because the cycle goes around over and over again. I think after a while, you start to see the same trends come up again and go again, and it's just kind of, where do you live?
Yeah. I mean, to pull it back to GDC for someone who did go to the show floor, Colin.
No,
Um,
no, Sean, I get it. I'm reporting from the Marriott Marquis.
and I didn't.
Fair.
And I confess that I mostly focused on personal interest, more looked at its design stuff and some other things that I'm interested in. So I didn't go to a ton of them, but I will say I did look at the GDC survey going in of developers, and a couple of takeaways on that were that the finished games don't really use AI for a number of reasons. You're going to replace all that art, all that audio, all that stuff with stuff that you can show that you own the IP rights to, and many other reasons you don't want to do that. But early on in prototyping, when you're throwing together ideas, and Colin, you kind of hinted at it with maybe write me an email or some of these other things that people do on their own that aren't going to be copyright, aren't going to be exposed to potential copyright or, legal things. I think that it is valuable in those early prototyping, even just text-based stuff, LLM searches and, doing things that are going to help you clarify background information or sources that are going to be then translated into actual art, actual audio, moved in toward engine pipelines, things like that. So I think that is happening. And I think I would say that at the show floor, there were examples of tools where it was moving from prototyping and kind of, let's say, pilot testing into actual deployments in the pipeline. And we see more finished products that are related to that. Tencent and several others, were showing off their latest wares around, both the text-based stuff, LLMs and visual integrations. I think there are increasing full wire mesh models. So the whole modeling piece can be brought in. Sometimes the animation between them gets very complex. And so I think there are some tools that that are going to save time and money. And we talked about kind of the middle get hollowing out. A lot of it is going to be, yes, there's going to be some cannibalization of people's work, human people's work to do that in the past. But a lot of that is very arduous work. It is very detailed work. I don't know how many developers, necessarily love going super deep on some of these technical code-based things. Some of them are code monkeys for sure, and they love it. Maybe you can squeeze a little bit of extra juice out of that. But some of it is mundane, and offloading that and letting humans do what they do best, I think is a good use for AI, and something that, we've talked about this great on the player support side, is that like the ToxMod stuff, where you're getting billions of minutes of use of voice chat coming in through, Minecraft or whatever. And you want automation to handle 97% of that, so you can surface the 3% to a human to figure out if that person should be booted, or if they meant it, they were actually using it in a playful thing or whatever it is. And you need those decisions to be done by humans, because the AI just isn't there yet. It may never get there. So if you can use that example, those sort of automations, I think, make sense, and it will save money, will save time, will keep making inroads. But the stuff that humans are best at, the more sophisticated things in a lot of senses, I don't think are going to be cannibalized. And so it's more about,
I agree with that.
People moving up the food chain, if you will, into that level of sophistication that the AI tools simply aren't good at and may never be good at.
Yeah, I put it as this. Like, to me, it boils down to, I think the form factor, people want to ask AI a question and get an answer. Now, if I were to reverse my career 15 years, I couldn't get started as an analyst unless I was really good at Excel, and then by proxy learning how to do like things in the back end of Excel, right? Kind of program in the Excel language to automate a lot of my reporting. I think the next generation of people are just going to ask AI, like, hey, I need to know this. I need to know the standard deviation of X, Y, Z. Is like, here you go. Like, do I need to know how to do all that stuff? No, doesn't. The computer just does it for you, right? It just gets you the answer, right?
Well, code was like a top 3 use case for AI, actually writing the code for you.
Yeah. And so I just think like so it doesn't make me less creative, actually frees me up to be more creative, to put more thought into the strategy and understanding like what's going to make my game great or not great, or maybe more in the story itself instead of like the little me doing something. Because the me doing something is, especially if it's digitally based me doing something, shout out to the plumbers out there, your jobs are more secure than ever. But like digital doing something is going to be just kind of automated, and that because humans just want to ask something, a question, and get an answer in the language they speak it to, right? That's it.
Did you we should tackle this another day, but there's oh man, what was it? Something Claw, Open Claw. Are you familiar with Open Claw? It's
Not White Claw the drink, but
not White Claw the drink. Open Claw is this AI authenticity model, I guess, basically, that allows you to override the decision making in AI. So when AI has this thing, hey, confirm with a human or do this before doing that, OpenClaw has the ability to override something like that. And it's big in technology because a lot of people can fully automate workflows from, hey, I got an email that's asking me to schedule a calendar response, and I need to be able to check 1, 2, 3. And people are giving it full access to their system, which is causing a problem because you're giving it full access to your email and enabling it, meaning if someone's creating code to intercept anything like that, they can get, it's this really like dangerous place where people are trying to fully automate everything by giving it full autonomous control over your computer. And it becomes this scary place of how much control does a human get in this, right? Do you want to be able to say, okay, I confirm I do this, or I want it fully automated? Don't even come to me. Just solve the problem and figure it out. And people are doing wacky stuff with it.
Personally, I don't want AI to book my travel. So
I would say is an even scarier example, and I didn't read into this, so I could be off base on this, but wasn't there a drone strike in the Iran area where it automatically did some AI, or at least there's some back and forth around the Pentagon needing to put a human being before AI driven drones start launching missiles on individuals that are wrongly targeted, right? So that's an extreme example of what you're talking about. But if you don't keep a human in that loop, you could be opening yourself up to a world of hurt, literally.
Sure. Yeah. And on the reverse, if you have a human in the loop, it might actually slow you down when you can't be slow. So pick your poison. But let's talk about fun stuff.
But I gotta end. You know why that AI or that drone could do what it's doing? Because broadband's better.
Yeah, I think NVIDIA and Starlink. Now, let's talk about, I mean, we talked a little bit about your 3 things, Lewis, from GDC. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, because I know you're going to have to hop here in a
Yeah, I'm
minute.
gonna hop at the top of the hour. So anything more from me, please ask. Otherwise, I'll sit around for a few more minutes, but then I gotta go.
Colin, man, let's hear about your GDC.
I mean, my last one, I think we didn't touch on is the Xbox of it all, and I've said this to everyone. My opinion and what I need to be described to me, and is poor. We're not gonna solve this in 5 minutes here, but like Greg's gonna come at me. But as a consumer, where does the Helix fit my demand? I own a gaming tower PC, a gaming laptop, a Switch 2, a Steam Deck, and a PS5. Where is my need as a consumer for a Helix in my life? I don't know the answer to that, and they didn't. I wasn't expecting them to sell me that on that at GDC, but to me, that is the question I have for the next Xbox console. Where is my need being met?
I'll give you two quick answers from my household. First of all, my wife is the hardcore Xbox gamer, so there are certain games that are on that platform, and she has her community built up, for which it's very difficult to extract herself for whatever reason.
Yeah.
She is an Xbox gamer, and she's got all these 25, 35,000 points, whatever it is, accrued in the whatever. So that's going to be very tough to get up or to get rid of. And Game Pass. So if you signed up for 3 years, right, you could do those deals where you could stack those subscriptions for 3 years. You've already prepaid like the max they allowed you to do at a lower price. You're not going anywhere. Even if you do switch consoles, you're going to get it and you're going to go over there because you're going to wind up paying less in a relative sense. So all I'm saying is there is a legacy of multi-year subscriptions that are ongoing, I think, for a certain part of the base. I don't know what their share is, and they're not going anywhere either until those subscriptions are exhausted.
Lewis is saying,
Yeah, but I can play it on my PC though.
Lewis
I
says
could download the Xbox launcher on my PC and fire it up.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, as it gets
I think they're okay with that. They don't care, right? They don't care. It's fine. Do that instead. Don't buy my hardware. Use it on a PC. They still have your attention.
Fair enough, but I'm perplexed as to the move into more hardware from them, instead of handing it off to OEMs and say make our hardware for us, which I kind of started teasing out with the handheld. It's like, hey, here you go, make a thing for us, because that way they offload a lot of the risk instead of having to go into massive losses to make hardware.
I don't think they are. I think they're making money on those. As a whole, I don't think they are in the red. They're not. They didn't do what Sony and I don't think so anyway. My understanding, having talked to some, I think Tim Stewart had a call with him maybe a month ago with some other analysts, and I think the implication was that the hardware is profitable by itself. It's not
a loss leader like it typically.
Yeah, maybe razor thin on the margins, but it's not a place where they're losing money. So why give it up? They're turning a profit there.
Sorry,
what do you feel like, Greg? What's your opinion about the Helix? Are you day one purchasing this box?
I don't. First of all, I didn't pay enough attention to it, which is a shame on me because I didn't know they actually announced hardware to it. I know they announced the concept of it, right? Like, I don't know. I'm still open for it. I'm not married to any system at this point in my mind. I'll play where my friends go, right? I think I want to be a PC gamer, but my computer is up near where my kids sleep. Right, I'm not gonna be a PC gamer when I need to be a PC gamer because my kids are asleep, and the last thing I need is them looking over my shoulder. So, like, I want a machine in my living room. Is it a PlayStation? Is it the next Xbox? At the end of the day, I think I care less about the hardware that's on there, and more so where I can play with my friends and where we can all connect. All right, I think that's really what comes important. The reason I love the Xbox, at least last generation, is the way it hooked up to my TV. Like, I love the fact that you didn't need to do inputs anymore. I know that's a really stupid reason, but like all of a sudden, it felt like one seamless machine was controlling video games, controlling TV, and it made my life easier as a user of my entertainment system. And I like those types of things, and whatever makes my life easier that way, I think is something I'm game for.
My last point on this before I jump is just that the line for that session where Microsoft announced that was huge at GDC. So I don't know how much you want to read into that, but it like looped back around like 3 times. Nobody was getting into all that. So for what it's worth, at least the devs were there. That was one of the longest lines I saw. I didn't go.
No, that makes sense. And to me, the thing, and my last comment on the Xbox Helix is the language around PC games. And my question to them is, does that mean Steam is going to be a launchable like storefront inside your Xbox, or are we just calling PC games BattleNet and BattleNet will be integrated into Helix, like because they own BattleNet, right? So they could be right by just saying, yeah, and here's BattleNet. Like, well, yeah, I can play World of Warcraft on my TV now. Cool, like awesome, but like I don't know if that was my expectations going in. So curious how they go out with that. Now we're years away from the new console. They're not sending dev kits out till 27. So and probably with the hardware prices going up as they are, I would be shocked to see a massive move to the next generation of console quickly, especially if GTA 6 is going to move a bunch of hardware. Consumers are not going to switch after that. They're going to be like, I bought my PlayStation 5 to play GTA 6. Why would I upgrade my hardware in a year? Like, you're just not going to.
All right, good to see you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
All
Lewis,
right.
man. Take it easy.
All right.
Colin, let's talk about Crimson Desert. Are you
Oh
ready for that? Are we
no.
ready for that? Or are
Uh,
we not ready for that yet?
No, we can talk about it. I mean, like my opinion is I think it's got a lot of heat behind it, but to my friend Simon Poleman, who has been saying it's going to sell 100 million copies, I think a lot of cold water was thrown on the hype train with its what Metacritic score of a 7.8, which I'm not a Metacritic guy, so I on a personal level I'm like I don't think it matters, but it doesn't matter if that makes sense. I think people put too much weight behind Metacritic. I think games can sell a lot of units without it. We're having a phenomenally 90 plus score, but I also see it as a kind of a downside, at least in terms of out the gate, where maybe that game's gonna have challenges. So I don't know if you want to start there. It got the IGN 6, was as I was shocked. I mean, review and it currently being reviewed, but they have a. If I had to grade it now, is it's getting a 6, which I'm like, a 6? They give
Yeah.
everybody 7s. The Gentleman B is the 7. Like, if it's a bad game, they're like, here's a 7. So a 6? I can't imagine it's that bad.
It really, again, I go back to when Claire Obscure came out, and like the week beforehand, there was this giant media push from IGN and different sources that kind of built up the hype of the game, and it lived up to the hype of the game that it was built out, right? And I know Crimson Desert's been in the making now since 2019, and more recently, it's been hyped up everywhere. And I get it; the game's coming out; they're going to pay for hype, and everyone was hyping it up. And then little things came out, right? Like there's no console test things out there. They're not sharing review codes. One of my buddies who I talk about, he's in the chat right now, or he is Dan Reb. He with his company Smashpad, they review games, and he's been talking about the game. He used to be invited by them to go review the game, play the game before it came out. And when it came time for the final copy for him to review it, they refused to send him a copy or invite him to come play it because he was a console player, not a PC player. And I think there's in this world where community is big, we see Battlefield, we see Bungie doing what they're trying to do. You understand that communicating with your community, keeping it active is super important. And I feel like Pearl Abyss did something weird here. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just weird how they were very silent on one front. They were really good on the other front. I mean, Digital Foundry did that big write-up, big tech stuff, and they sent them a custom PS5 to play it, which probably concerning as well. But like, I don't know what happened here, but I think the IGN review came out and I think it hurt the game. Like, I think if you were on the fence about
I
it and you're like, all right, it's a 9, I'm going to go buy it. You see a 6, you're like, I'm going to wait for a sale.
I think it'll sell well on its launch week. I'm not diminished on that, although I think its upside is tampered, like a little bit lower. Our model has its floor at around 3 million at sale. I thought it would go above that, and I said 5. I would bet the over on that. Now maybe it goes down a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see. I am going against our model. Our model is usually really accurate. And I was like, because they're not on Twitch, I'll kind of bet the over on this, just given how all the other scores are everywhere else. I think it'll go above that, but I do think it's week 2, week 3. If people have a challenge in that, like to me, I'm buying it. But if I can't get behind the game in the first hour of gameplay, where I'm like, I understand what the loop is, I'm bought in on it. Like I feel like, you know, this is a game for me. Like I could see a lot of people dropping off saying, "Yeah, the reviews are right." I feel like I'm meandering. I don't know what's going on. I'm not really drawn in by the plot, which is a common thing I saw. Like, and that one I believe the reviewers of like the plot's not good. The plot's not good. I think they're you could say Western reviewers don't understand these type of games, which I think there's some truth to that. But if the plot's just like non-existent, and I go, okay, well the plot's probably non-existent. Like,
Yeah,
and for
exactly.
some that doesn't matter. They want to live in a sim of just history and just fantasy and whatever. So having no plot might be a selling point to some, but I think that kind of diminishes upside into week 2 and week 3. Anyways, my point is if I don't get bought in, I'll probably churn, go back to Pocopia. Currently on my short list of game of the year, but a very short list. But yeah, I met the guy who's marketing this game at GDC. Shout out to Will Powers. He's really good dude, a really awesome guy. I heard the story behind it. He read my piece about them, and I know it got shared across Pearl Base. And like I think what they've done to market this game is awesome, given kind of the resources they had, and they're kind of no, they have never published a game themselves at Pearl Abyss. This is their first crack at it. I'm like, yeah, you guys definitely kind of built it up into a hype moment. So tip of the cap there, and I think you'll see that in the form of week 1 sales. But like you always say, like week 1 sales is marketing, week 2 and beyond is word of mouth.
Well,
If
I
the
think that's
game,
the interesting thing about this game, right? They're content heavy, right? So what's this game look like a year from now? It's probably nothing like it looks like right now. And in the world of live ops, is that the worst version of your game is the game that's out today, right? So what are they going to improve upon? And the biggest critique I'm seeing it is basically it's you come from an MMO background, right? You build these massive multiplayer online games. That's what Black Desert Online is. And now all of a sudden
shout
you
out
get
to
a
Will.
there you go. And then you have this game, which is a single player MMO, right? And all of a sudden, like, all right, well, the same mechanics may not work, and maybe there'll be a player that loves it, right? But how until they get fatigued from the gameplay loop until they want to move on? And I have no doubt that this game will turn out to be a masterpiece, right? But I have a feeling it's going to take a number of months or even a number of years if they could keep the players there to kind of
You,
shape it.
you think it's on a cyberpunk journey where we go back in like 3 years and handed a nomination for game of the year because they come up with its first major, like whatever, the expansion that kind of quote unquote fixes the whole game. And everyone's like, this game's amazing. You just bought Cyberpunk when it came out, which was me. And then you should come back, which I never did. I was so mad at CD. I was like, I'm out. This game sucks. It's broken. I can't run this thing on my PC. And I just walked away from it. Never came back. I hope that's not my experience with this game because it looks gorgeous. It looks cool. I want to fly a dragon. I want a dog to loot corpses for me. I want all these things that the game has promised me. Like that's awesome. That sounds great. That sounds great. But
I do. We'll have to come back in a year from today and review.
yeah, and I'll know next week. I'll give you the report card on how it does. It's tracking above a lot of games. It's gonna be the second biggest launch of this year so far. It's gonna be behind Resident Evil, but it's gonna be number 2, and it'll hold that spot likely until Forza comes out, which will then take the number 2 spot from this game. So that's the trajectory it's on, which is awesome. And again, great job marketing the game to get it to where it's gonna be. We shall see how the a long-term engagement is. But they're selling the game, so they're not making a live service game. So they get their money when they get their money.
What about I don't know how I'm looking at Dan Reb again here, but he's been playing a lot of Pragmata at these events. I know you've been talking about that. You see Capcom ready to go with it. I have a feeling this could be a sleeper game here based on what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. And I'm curious if you think that has any way of like sneaking up.
It'll do fine. That's my read of it. I was looking after you mentioned it to me yesterday. It'll do fine. But Capcom's whole strategy is one big blockbuster game a year, and then the rest is a gravy thing for them. So to me, this is like gravy. Not to like diminish the team that's working on this, but you just look at the trends of Capcom. They put their big heavy hitter in their fiscal Q4/Q1 for the calendar, and they typically do really well there. And I think that just covers the rest of the catalog. And goals and expectations are not to make it another Resident Evil or another Monster Hunter. It's just to put out good games. Maybe it's a new franchise. They can build on that. So I am like of the camp of it'll do fine. But yeah.
All right.
Which is not looks great. The trailer was great. I was like, oh yeah, cool. But I think my sense is it'll do fine.
It's just another mediocre game in the basket.
Oh, it's not that. It's I don't think they're moving 10 million units on launch. So I'll say that. They're not. I don't think we're walking into a surprise hit. In that regard.
Copia then now. That's your jam.
Oh, Pocopia. Oh, what? Have you not played this game, Greg? You're the one
I
that
don't have
turned
a
me on
Switch
this.
2 and I don't want to ruin the experience on the Switch 1. My son's birthday's in a
You
couple
can't
months.
play on Switch 1, Switch 2 only.
I heard you could play on the Switch 1. I heard that if you were to install it and play it, that it plays. That is what I heard.
It's a Switch 2 exclusive title.
No,
Um,
I'm gonna test this. No, I'm not gonna test it. I need to play it on the Switch too.
and Copia is the best game I've played in 2 years. And I'm not a Pokemon person. I'm not an Animal Crossing person, and I'm not a Minecraft person. But
You know
I was
you're not a
like,
Pokemon person, man. You came and showed off the $7,000
oh,
Legos you bought.
I like Pokemon. I don't play their games because they're not good games. like, like,
Wow. Our world's celebrating right now. Like, yes, he said something.
I think they have made the same RPG for the last 30 years or however long, right? Which is fine because look, kids have never played a Pokemon game are going to play the next ampersand title, Wind and Water or whatever it's called, right? I'm probably butchering that. I'm so sorry, Pokemon Company, and they'll probably love it. And like, this is amazing. So good for them. It's always onboarding the next generation of Pokemon fans. And also wildly popular in Asia, but like. Copia or Pokepia, as I was calling it at GDC. I think this is a jaw-droppingly, shockingly good game. And warrants all the praise it got from Metacritic because the highest rated Pokemon game in the history of Metacritic or since the beginning. Like, yeah, sure. Um, what what do I think? I want to say.
There we go.
Game share
Cheating the
function.
system.
Yep, there it is. So first off, this game comes out just straight data. It does solid in our tool, Greg, on Mindshare, right, in my game, right? And then the second week bump is crazy. It goes up 25% week over week. So this game, at least in its first 2 weeks, is becoming a word of mouth viral sensation, which I think it'll only continue to grow. Second, it is moving Switch units. So I think a lot of the concern trolling out there from those who are Nintendo doubters, which I always push back on, and saying the Nintendo Switch doesn't have a core game that makes you. It doesn't have the it game that you need to have to in order to justify your investment in the Switch 2. And never mind, Mario Kart has sold 14 million
No one
plus
cares.
copies so far, but whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the game then, I guess. This is absolutely better than Donkey Kong Bonanza. Um, this is better than a lot of games I've played. Its loops are, it's almost built like a mobile game where I could pick it up for 10 minutes, do my sim game thing. I go pick up my vegetables. I check my Pokemon who's making me my ore. I go and pick up my brick. I have them go build another house, and I leave. Right, so they're always operating. It has that mobile element to it, where it's just like, yeah, you just come back, check in. We put you on timeouts so you can't build too fast or whatever. At least where I'm in the game, you can't. They're not trying to sell me coins with cash yet, but that's only they have a store. I can buy stuff with the coins I earn in the game. So yeah, so it's got that mechanic and that kind of loop in it, but but then beyond that, which is like that'd be a fine game and I wouldn't care. I'd be like, yeah, sure, my kids will play it and I'll lose interest. What's crazy about this game is like when you get your hands on it and you play it, it's like you realize very quickly that it's Minecraft because you're basically walking around destroying things, turning it into things and materials, terraforming your land. You could build whatever you want. You could build the pre-built houses, or you could literally build something out of your imagination. You're like, oh, this is not just Pokemon. This is Minecraft. Like this is Minecraft with Pokemon companions, which to me just flips the whole thing on its head. And then, fast forward a week, which I'll be in my newsletter this week because I found so many great videos. Like you'll see just an insane amount of content where people are building wildly imaginative fortresses for their people to walk through. I saw one where a person built like a Team Rocket secret headquarters where you go underground. There's like an underground lair they built out. I saw people who literally built like water tunnels. You can't swim as a ditto, but they built like underwater walkways with glass. So you could look at the water. I'm like, this is insane. I saw people building roller coasters. I saw people building binary computers inside the game because you could have water functions and do different things and run a calculator. I saw people building towers to their favorite Pokemon, like very much like Minecraft. Like here's a giant Ditto, here's a pirate ship, here's like all this crazy stuff. You're like, one, this game's been out for 2 weeks and it's already like just glommed on with just different levels of just UGC like let's just take the world and make it my own. And to me, that's the most exciting thing about this game. And I just am shocked it came out of Game Freak in tandem with the people who made Dragon Quest builders, which everyone tells me and builders like they are the ones that made this game. And it's the same game, it's just as Pokemon IP. And I'm like, well, that's the unlock. You just put Pokemon and into something that's this well made, and it's just gonna go like shoot out
That's
like a cannon. And they sold 2.2 million units in 4 days. It was sold out on Amazon on physical copies. Amazon raised the prices. It's viral, man. And I
viral.
am here
Crazy.
to say, clip it, Greg. This will be a Game of the Year nominee at the end of the year. Nintendo has a spot. This will be the game.
All
It'll
right,
be it.
we love it. We should go back to like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, when we first learned about the game and we talked about it. We should see how our sentiments have changed and have gone from there.
Oh, and it's as dark as I was trolling you about. Like
I know.
it's just the world did end. You are there's this like I'm gonna mispronounce his name, but it's like a Driffon or something like that. There's like ghost Pokemon you meet like in the first hour of the gameplay. It's sad. It's humans are dead, and it's escape is to take you to a dream world where everything is like grown and green and flush and not desolate. And you're like, this is a dark game. Like if you just understand the plot now, they don't actually speak to you. You have to read. So kids that can't read or don't understand, they just hit A, and just go do what the
Yeah,
game tells them to do. So they're not understanding the depth of the plot of the end of the world, the death of humans. They're gone. Or they call them gone. They're all dead. The Pokemon are also gone, but they're coming back. You're rebuilding society. I mean,
there we go. It's like black and white
I
all over again from back in the days. You're a god. You get to bring it all here together.
yeah.
It's lovely. One
So
day.
my review, great game. It is my topic of my newsletter this week. Oh, and the last thing I want to say, sorry. Is it impacting Minecraft? Yes. So in the history of mind game tracking, or since COVID, right, since 2021, there's only been 4 windows in which Minecraft's global market share has dipped below 6%. It's experiencing one of those dips right now, and it coincides with the release of Pocopia. So
Nice.
is it actually drawing people away from Minecraft? I would say correlation's not causality, but I would be remiss to say probably that's probably what's happening. You're seeing the Minecraft people be pulled into Pocopia, right? And yeah, and
I want to revisit this in like 3 weeks. And I say three
yeah,
weeks because that's after
I
spring break. And after spring break, a lot of kids are going to spend some time at home. And I think we're going to see spikes on everything, right? Everything should spike up, right? So I'm really curious if there's a spring break spike. And I'm not discounting that Pocopia is going to take over. I think any casual player that was into Pocopia and to Minecraft, if they have the Switch too, they're probably going to be more drawn to Pocopia at the time because it's cuter, it's more fun, and it's Pokemon.
Well, the real question is, what's Nintendo do? They are notoriously not the most warm company to the community that surrounds them. I'll put it kindly. See the Smash community. So they're not gonna put Pocopia on my phone to download a version of it to play. So that's never gonna happen, right? And that's actually the advantage. Like the last major thing, like to me, that happened with Pokemon where it broke through at this level of zeitgeist, was Pokemon Go. Except there, Pokemon Company via Niantic put it on a app store, which is not the Nintendo ecosystem. So they're already not getting the full value of drawing people to phone play based gaming, right? It's like, well, yeah, Nintendo doesn't own the storefront, so they're not monetizing it the way they are this game. So that's a distinct difference. And I don't see them racing out to move their hardware mover, which I think this game will be a hardware mover, to another device. So that won't happen. So that already kind of hinders its TAM, as it were, because it's not going to be everywhere. Which at the end of the day makes sense. But then also, okay, well, let's assume it's just on the Switch too. How are they going to keep the content or create the openness for people to kind of build within these environments? And that's an open question too. Like, will Nintendo like make it easier for modders, or not modders, but just the they would never allow modders, but maybe the kind of components you would find from modders who exist in their game. How are they going to support that side, the creative, the community side? I
Mhm.
don't know. They have an opportunity to do a lot, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
this, they don't have to make Pocopia 2. They just make this a forever game and just build, add, update. At least through this generation of hardware, because you have what you need, right? So I'm curious how they extend the life of this, and it's going to be through community. And Nintendo's not
Yeah,
invested
it's
in that,
right.
so
How do
we'll see.
you? I mean, you have Mod.io, you have Overwolf, you have all these different modding tools that can go
But
in game. How do you enable it to
but they're never
install?
going to do it. never gonna happen for Nintendo games. So just like so it's like Nintendo enabling it themselves by putting the effort into doing it. We'll see.
This is how Nintendo Online took 45 years to make because they're the slowest at making it happen. But I want to tell you about the games I'm playing.
Let's jump into it.
Marathon. I'm slowing down on Marathon. My crew did not
You and
follow me.
Ruiz,
What?
you and Justin Ruiz.
Justin and our other buddy. We all play Brooklyn. We jump on and we have a trio, but they're both really good. They both play a lot more than me. And this is, I think, one of those things when you get to those sweaty Tarkov type games is that you have that real dividing line of what your lower entry level is, right? And the people that are left playing it are those sweaty types. And I think as much as I want to keep playing the game, if I can't get my normal crew to play on a normal basis, I think even if we did, it's just you fall behind. But I love what Bungie did is built a world full of lore. And I'm not connecting with the lore just because I'm not taking the time to read it, but it is fascinating. And like you think about watching this video and how they're connecting everything in these different facts. It's just fascinating storytelling. And I really appreciate how Bungie does it. I'm sure that's why you loved Destiny 2 for the same reason. I'm sure the lore was just such a huge high on that. The problem is, again, when you start getting to these intense players getting killed when I'm trying to check, so like it just becomes tough and frustrating. And it's just, that's where I'm
Oh
at.
man, I'm so sorry that
It's okay.
of course sweaty game is not your thing. It
But
felt like this was always their destiny on this game. Yuck yuck.
terrible. But I also through Brooklyn, who I met on Marathon, told me about Satisfactory. Did you ever play that game? Do you know that game?
I don't. What is that game?
Satisfactory is from Coffee Stain Studio, who happens to make
Oh,
my
I know that.
son's favorite game, Goat Simulator 3. But it's
Yeah.
literally just a factory building game. You build factory, you mine resources, you build out more. It's super buttery smooth. It's like, it's funny as you're talking about Pocopia, right? And you're talking about how it has mobile mechanics. I'm thinking these dopamine hits that you're getting, and it's dangerous when you have it in a console game like that. Those dopamine hits come in for 10 minutes and leave. And that's kind of what Satisfactory is for me. It's like you get these dopamine hits by crafting and creating, putting the right elements together. And I'm just like, this is such a stress-free kind of relief of an experience. And it's a single player game, so it's a great way to just put on some tunes that you want to listen to, disconnect, and that game has been amazing to me. And I'd recommend people check it out.
Check it out. I will be playing Crimson Desert, and then if I don't like it, I'm going back to my Pokemon Sim game. My kid wants to switch to so he can play side by side with me and have his town. I mean, because he sees me with Charmander or sorry, Squirtle and Bulbasaur telling me to make it humid. Let's get humid as a
Yes, I
it's a
saw you
meme.
shared with me.
It's a meme. It's yeah, man. I look at the calendar ahead and like I'm just like crazy. Like I thought 2025 was a great year in gaming, but like to be, you know, this year is already shaping up to be crazier. It's just like so much content is coming out. I mean, if you look at the last month, you had Resident Evil, Pocopia, and now Crimson Desert all launching, within their month window of each other. That's like crazy. And just looking ahead, you have, a bunch of kind of like I think smaller titles, but like similarly like Passionate Audience, Soros, Pragmata, right, from Capcom, like these other games that are coming out. And then you go into May, and you're gonna have Lego, Forza, and Lego Forza and Bond all launching the same week, like all the same week. I like that Bond. I think it was Bond move its release window up like a week or a couple days right into Forza's window, which I think is a mistake. I think Forza is gonna, for you as an Xbox Dan, don't worry, you can throw all the flowers or everything at it. Forza is going to just be a monster game. It's trailing behind Forza 5 in our tracking by a little bit, but that was a COVID game. So I don't know if Xbox would see that as a net win. If a COVID games audience is at the same level to a sequel post-COVID, I would consider that a win. If I
Oh
were
yeah,
a
definitely,
data
right?
person, to be like, yeah, this game came out in the height of COVID. I wouldn't expect those numbers, and you're going to get pretty close to it. I think that's a huge win. So you can throw that all in my face in a month.
Nah,
And
man,
then Fable.
I grew up a James Bond fan. GoldenEye, was a game-changing game for me, and I just love that. So I think Hitman owning the Bond license is a match made in heaven. I
Me
also
too.
just don't know what type of game it's gonna be. I'm not an Agent 47 sneaking around type of guy, right? I'm a run and gun type of shooter, right? So I
I
don't
think
know.
it'll be more Uncharted is my feel. I think it's be
Yeah,
more Uncharted, or as Simon Pullman calls it, joystick point forward game where you're just
it's not a game. Yeah,
you're just pushing forward and you just kind of do things because you're rocking through a cinematic experience, which I don't think is a bad thing. That is I think it's perfectly fine for games to have those moments in it. But I think to me it feels more like that game. With like there'll definitely be the Hitman elements. Like why else would IO be making this game or
yeah,
like in concert, right? So I think the elements of it, but I think it'll be more Uncharted than people think. Like I can't imagine it's gonna have Hitman-y like level design when you're driving Aston Martin. I think that's just like press X, press this, press square, press triangle, press circle, press X. Like I think you're gonna do those sequences just like you would have in
yeah,
Uncharted and God of War and everything else. That the SIE playbook, right? Oh,
yeah. Uncharted. Dan Rabb agrees with you. Yeah, I think we're all on the same
l-
page here, and yeah, that puts it kind of against Indiana Jones, right? Would you say Indiana Jones is similar to Uncharted, or you didn't really play Indiana Jones? But
I mean, nobody did. And so I think Indiana Jones is for boomers, and I don't think anyone cares. So that's that IP. And I think people like Bond because Bond has always done a good job of reinventing itself and not forcing Harrison Ford out there when he's like 90 years old to play a treasure hunter, and they just would recast him. Like it's not hard. Bond's been doing it for a half a century. Just find another Bond. And then you can make a story around why he's Bond. Like, oh, it's just a name we give people. Like their name's actually James Bond. It's just
yeah,
their code name. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like
I
nobody
love
cares,
it.
right?
Beautiful way to explain it. Could be anyone.
Could be anyone. Indiana Jones has never figured that out. Just make it someone not Harrison Ford. It's easy.
I think next week we should take a look at the next few games that are coming out for the quarter and try and stack rank where we think they'll land on the Metacritic rating.
Oh, you already know I know the answer to that question, but
I know,
happy
but
to reveal my preferences on that
fine. We
one.
don't have to reveal it. We'll just sneak them out of you. But before
Forza,
we do end today,
Forza,
let us know,
Forza.
Colin. First of all, welcome back and thank you for jumping on. Where can we find you?
Colin East. You can find me on LinkedIn, and then you can find me on Substack, Patch Notes, and LinkedIn. Also, the same newsletter, Patch Notes. It's literally the same newsletter, so follow me in one of them, whichever your preference is. And I typically release them on Fridays. Try to do Friday morning, but we'll see.
Oh, you're falling behind here, huh?
No, it's always been Friday morning.
I know.
Stop.
You made
I'm
it sound
just
iffy this time. You're sounding like,
no. It's gonna be about Procopia, GDC, everything I talked about here is gonna find its way in Crimson Desert and the reviews. That's kind of be my theme this week. So there you go.
we'll have information to it. We'll link to it. We'll steal some of it at playerdriven.io. Check out our socials. Our Discord is growing. Our YouTube is growing. It is all growing, but be a part of the community. Jump in. Lewis is not here, but check out Lewis as well on LinkedIn. He's been contributing more and more to Player Driven. So thank you, Colin, for jumping back on this week.
Of course.
Welcome back to reality, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
watching.